Welcome to the Get Published podcast, sponsored by Brodie Consulting Group. To get more information about our coaching, publishing, executive ghostwriting, and podcast production services, go to getpublishedpodcast.com. Hello, I am Paul Brodie, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Get Published podcast, where we help authors get published with a proven system that works. Today, we're being joined by Nancy Erickson, author of Stop Stalling and Start Writing. Nancy, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Paul. I'm so happy to be here.
Are you ready to get started?
I sure am.
All right. Question number 1. What is the one piece of advice that you would give to a first-time author who is currently writing their book?
Well, I would tell them not to start writing until they have a plan for their book. And we work strictly with nonfiction, and so what we do is we help authors to really plan out everything that's going to be in the book, not an outline, but in a visual format. And one of the things that I find that authors, especially first-time authors, do that costs them a lot of time and energy, and they have to have do-overs, is they start writing first. And we don't advocate that. We advocate that you go through and you figure out what the purpose of your book is and who the audience is, and then map out all the components of the book so that when you start writing, you have a comprehensive plan that you can follow.
And what do you feel is the hardest part about getting published?
You know, it's really not hard to get published right now, because there's so many avenues, and you know, a lot of people are doing self-publishing. I think the hardest part is developing a quality product that meets the market demands. And you know, a lot of times, a lot of people give me their books, and you know, I'm always so impressed that they finished it. I mean, it's really a big accomplishment, and it's not easy to do. But like half the time I look at the book and I think, oh my gosh, please don't give this to anybody else. Because what they wanted to do was to really establish themselves as an expert and increase their credibility. But when they went the route of self-publishing in the way that it was like do-it-yourself publishing, you know, they may have not a professional cover, not professional layout, and they don't really understand the conventions of publishing, which is a very old industry, and it has some pretty strict conventions. So what I think the hardest part is actually producing a quality product, and you really need to work with professionals in order to do that.
Let's talk about marketing. So in regards to marketing, please share a strategy that you have used in your book launch that works well.
Okay, well, so the book launch starts like way before the book is even ready or out. And so what I really advocate is that, like I said, you want to figure out who your target market is before you start writing the book. And so the book is framed for that market, but also I developed a process and a handout kind of tip sheet, a target market worksheet, where you can actually start gathering names and addresses and phone numbers of organizations and institutions that are already aligned with your topic, who are interested in your subject matter, so that when your book is finished, they would be good candidates for getting the word out about your book through their channels, through their followers, etc. So, for example, if you were writing about, I know one author who was a handicapped, she was a quadruple amputee, and so one of the target markets for her would be the disability kind of organizations. And so the best way to really market your book is not to do 1 and 2 book sales, but you want to really reach a critical mass of your target market, and the best way to do that is through working through other organizations.
So you're talking about reaching out to other organizations and talking about your book, the benefits, and then building relationships from there.
Yeah, and building relationships from there. And, you know, you can also do great things for you too, because if they're already, you'd want it to be organizations who are already aligned with your topic, and so you would have an opportunity not only to work through their network, that they would, advocate your book through their network, but also, we really want to get endorsements for our books, and so it's a good place to start for that as well. If you can key in with organizations whose members would have the most benefit from your book, and they can be a source of both book blurbs, endorsements, as well as channels through which you can market your book.
So even also organizing them potentially for editorial reviews too, it sounds like.
I'm sorry, for what?
For like editorial reviews as well, to help with your sales page and everything else.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I didn't mention that, but that's great because when you want to get these Amazon reviews as well. So so we, like I said, I like to go for the big fish and not the 1-2 book sales, and we have a process that we take people through to help them identify those markets.
And this is most likely for nonfiction business type of books. It's probably going to be the best fit for this approach.
Yeah, you know what? I strictly work with nonfiction, not and business books, yes, but what I also inspirational books, kind of how-to books, and a lot of, I would say, what I call credibility books that like speakers and consultants write to help them establish themselves as an expert and increase their credibility and attract a following.
Yeah, that is a great strategy, because a lot of the time with those types of books, that's one of the best things to do, is to reach out to those organizations and to potentially be able to get corporate business, not only with the book, but also utilizing it for speaking gigs, back-end offers, coaching, potential courses down the line. Definitely is a great strategy.
Absolutely, because let's just talk about speakers and coaches for a minute. They're kind of a dime a dozen. There's just a lot of them out there, and if you don't have a differentiating piece, how do people know that you're not just some self-proclaimed expert? And so, what a book does for you is, it really helps to establish that expertise, but only if it's done well. I mean, the writing has to be really good, but then again, the packaging, like I talked about in the publishing, has to be top quality, and working with professionals is the best way to have a product that the market will accept.
Yeah, absolutely. It has to have a great looking cover, well edited, and a compelling book description.
Exactly. And in the interior layout, there's a lot to the interior layout. It really has to work together in a compelling title and subtitle. So there's just a lot to it. And so, you probably know that there's like 1 million books a year published now because of digital publishing and people just doing their own books on, Amazon, et cetera, which you can do that. But the people that really rise to the top work with professionals and have a professional product to offer the market.
Well, let's talk about your favorite book. So what is your favorite book, and what was the number one thing that you learned from it?
That is really a hard question.
It's the hardest question of the show.
I know. Like, seriously, when I was a kid, I used to ride my bike to the library every Saturday, and I'd walk in the library, and I'd think, how am I going to read all of them? I was frustrated. So I think if I had to really pick one, I would pick The Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck. And I read that when I was probably around 12 years old. And it had such a lasting impact on me because of the emotional, what I learned is really how to bring emotion into language and how to really give the reader an experience that they won't forget. And, obviously Steinbeck's a great writer, but that it had a huge impact on me. And it was one of the things that made me want to be a writer, to help give other people that type of an emotional experience through storytelling.
And for a final question, what is your favorite quote and why?
Well, this one's easier for me. My favorite quote is by Winston Churchill. And he said, when you're going through hell, keep going. And I've fallen back on that. You know, we all have bumps and turns in our life. But when you're going through hell, just keep going. It's not a place where you want to stick.
Yeah, that is a great quote. I love it. Well, Nancy, I want to thank you for being a guest on the show. What is the best way for people to find you online?
At my website, which is thebookprofessor.com. And like I said, we help people who aren't writers to become authors of high-impact nonfiction books.
Well, Nancy, thank you once again for being on the show, and I wish you all the best in your author journey ahead.
Yes. Thank you, Paul. I appreciate it.
Thanks again for joining us today. To learn more about how you can be featured in our brand new Get Published business book, go to getpublishedpodcast.com.